This is TechSNAP. Or, well, it's almost TechSNAP. The next episode has been just a little bit delayed, but don't worry, we're hard at work behind the scenes, and a brand new episode will be out in a feed near you later this week. While you wait, I thought I might point out an interesting story I saw in all the hubbub of WWDC last week. And that's an interesting new use of public key cryptography in Apple's Find My Device service. Andy Greenberg over at Wired got a chance to get on the phone with some people at Apple and get some inside details about how all this stuff actually works. At its most basic, the new Find My feature will broadcast a Bluetooth signal from all Apple devices, even when they're offline, allowing any nearby Apple devices to relay their location to the cloud. Now, that sounds pretty great if a thief has stolen your laptop and hasn't turned it on yet. But what makes this interesting and really contrast to other vendors' solution, like Google, for instance, is that Apple's elaborate encryption scheme behind the scenes is not only designed to make sure that no one else can pick up your location, it's designed so that even Apple doesn't know the location of your device. Now, how does this work? Well, the trick is you're going to need at least 2 separate Apple devices. Each device will constantly emit a changing key that nearby Apple devices use to encrypt and then upload your geographic location, but signed in such a way that only other Apple devices you own can decrypt that information. Now, one immediate concern you might have, won't this easily allow third parties to sort of track whatever key you're broadcasting over Bluetooth? Don't worry, Apple's thinking about that too. The key will constantly be changing. Here's how. When you first set up Find My on your devices, and remember, you do need 2 here, it generates a private key that's shared on all the devices you own via end-to-end encrypted communication, so that only those machines possess that key. Now, each device also generates a series of public keys, changing over time, that are generated from that private key. This is the beacon that your devices will broadcast out via Bluetooth to nearby devices. Every so often, and Apple hasn't really said on exactly what frequency yet, a new public key will be generated from the private key, thereby rotating the key and making it harder for anyone to track you or keep the same identity between different keys. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Say someone steals one of your devices. Even if the thief carries it around closed and disconnected, as long as it has power, it's going to be emitting that key via Bluetooth. A nearby stranger's iPhone with no interaction required from its owner will pick up the signal, check its own location, and encrypt that location data using the public key it picked up from the laptop. So the laptop sends a public key that's matched to the private key that you only have, and then some random other person's device figures out where it is, encrypts that information using the public key your stolen device has shared, and then sends it up to Apple. Well, actually, it sends 2 things to Apple, the encrypted location and a hash of the laptop's public key, which it used to encrypt that location, which will then serve as an identifier. Since Apple doesn't have the private key, it uses this public key as a way for you to go look up and figure out just the information you want. Then, when you want to find your stolen device, you turn to your second Apple device, which has the private key. It then uploads the same hash, or, well, at least a related hash. We're not quite clear on how that's going to work either, because during the time that your device has been gone, those hashes may have rotated a number of times. So there might be a log kept of all previous hashes. The details are murky. But you've got 1 or more hashes of the public keys that have been generated from the private key. Apple uses that to go look up in their big cloud database of all this encrypted information to find the encrypted information for your device. Now, you can then download that, and using the local private key on the device that you still retain control of, you can then unencrypt it and get the location information sent by the stranger's device, and poof, there you go. Now you've got the location of your stolen device. As if by magic. Or, well, as if by mathematics. Now, of course, the true security of this system is actually going to depend on all the particulars and details of how it's actually implemented. A lot of the math here, right, this is all pretty much just standard public key cryptography. But what makes it interesting is that Apple might be rolling this out to its billions of worldwide users. This is definitely an interesting attempt at Apple at having user-accessible public key cryptography in its features, but in a way that isn't complicated or confusing and preserves privacy. Good on them, and makes me wish my particular platform did a little better in this regard. That's it for me today, but please do stay tuned. A new TechSNAP is just around the corner. Of course, the easiest way to stay abreast of any new updates is to subscribe to our feed over at techsnap.systems/subscribe. You might also want to check out jupiterbroadcasting.com for all the other fine JB productions, things like Linux Action News, Coder Radio, or User Error.